Good evening, everybody. Welcome to Casa Italiana, Zerilli-Marimò. I'm Eugenio Refini. I'm the chair of the Department of Italian Studies, and on behalf of the Department of Italian Studies and of Casa Italiana, I'm really happy to be introducing very briefly this evening. We have a fantastic program tonight, and I just would like to sort of bring the greetings of our director of Casa Italiana, Stefano Albertini, and I just would like to say thanks to the people who have been organizing the series, which is really unfolding this semester, Black Italy, and the event tonight, the screening of Elia Moutamid's film, is part of this series, which is really sort of thought of and conceived by my colleagues Isabella Livorni and Elena Bellina, and I will leave the floor to them in a second. So they will say something about it, and they will also introduce Elia. I just would like to say that we have had Elia as our guest a few months ago for the screening of another film, which he did with another friend of Casa and of ours, Simone Brioni. It's been such a pleasure to be in conversation with him on these various themes, and we really look forward to seeing this other film with Elia tonight. So I will just leave the floor to my colleagues Isabella and Elena. They will introduce the evening, they will introduce Elia, and then after the screening of the movie, there will be time for a brief discussion and Q&As with also questions from the audience. So please welcome, join me in welcoming our guests tonight.
Hello all, thanks again so much for being here. I just wanted to give a quick overview of the series that we've organized. So Black Italia is a series of events, which are book discussions, theatrical performances, film screenings, and lectures that is sponsored by the Casa Italiana Zerilli-Marimò in collaboration with the NYU's Department of Italian Studies. It aims to promote conversations on the intersections of race, identity, and migration in Italy. Conceived in connection with courses taught in the Department of Italian Studies, this series revisits the format launched by Casa Italiana's virtual salons, Discourses on Black Italia, which were held virtually during the pandemic, by bringing together artists and scholars in order to address questions about race and racialization across Italian history and its multifaceted diasporic geography. So we started off with a conversation with Anne Morning, sociologist here at NYU, about her book about race in Italy. And then we went on to have a great theatrical performance last week, organized by Kairos Italy Theater, of Nalini Vidula Mutusami's play The Foreigner's Smile. This is our third event. We have another event coming up on March 29th, right, with Uba Cristina Lifara and Simone Brioni. So.
And tonight, as Eugenio Refini just said, we are very happy to have Elia Moutamid back after his screening of Maca in October 2023. Elia Moutamid was born in Fez in Morocco in 1983 and moved to Italy to the town of Rovato near Brescia when he was 3 months old. In 2007, he shot his first film, Clandestino, in which he analyzes with clarity and irony intercultural discourses such as prejudice, fear of diversity, and cultural exchanges, all themes that he has continued to explore in all his movies. Clandestino won the Film Festival Integration Prize that year, and so he went on exploring more and more. In 2005, he shot Gayuan, and that was shortlisted and finalist in more than 75 international film festivals and obtained 30 among prizes and recognitions. And the same year, he started to work on the movie you'll be watching tonight, Talien, that was released in 2017 and received a number of prestigious awards, including the Special Jury Prize at the Turin Film Festival and a special mention as Best Debut Director Film for the Italian Film Festival Nastri d'Argento. And in 2020, right before the pandemic and during the pandemic, he worked on a more experimental film, Kufid, his second biographical feature film. And in 2023, last October, he presented Maca, the story of Geneviève Macapin, the first Black woman journalist in Italy. And the film premiered here in New York and toured all over the US. And among the many other small projects and big projects Elia has been working on, there's also the series Arabiscus that is on his YouTube channel. And he just told me that he's working on a new film project between Italy, Morocco, and the US. So more to come soon. So let's welcome Talien and
Yes. Do you want me to? Do you want me to read the description? Okay, before we get started, I'm just going to read the quick synopsis of the film. So, Talien, the movie that you're going to watch tonight, is a road movie in which Abdelouahab, who Italianized his name as Aldo, decides to return home to Morocco after working for 30 years in Italy. Ilyass Elia, his son, who is now 30 years old and grew up in Lombardy, joins him on this journey of memories and stories. Different phases of immigration to Italy and changes in Italian attitudes to waves of migrants is the background for a story about the relationship between a migrant father and a first-generation Italian son during a trip that will take them to Morocco, passing through France and Spain. Bene. Thank you, Elia.
Thank you. Thanks to Casa Italiana for inviting me. I'm very happy to be here, honored. Enjoy the film and see you later for the Q&A. Enjoy.
Benissimo, grazie.
Va bene qui in mezzo?
So we'll start with a few questions for him, and then we'll open it up to the audience. I hope you enjoy the movie, and I think you're all asking the same question that I want to ask him. What does Talien mean?
Oh, good question. Talien means is how the Moroccans say Italy. The roots of this term arrive from the French language because, you know, Morocco is a francophone country. And so it's a sort of storpiatura. It comes from Italian without I, so Talien. And Talien represents a sort of myth for the Moroccans of the early 80s, as my father. So it is the same myth that the Italians had with America. So it's the same dynamic, same analogy. So this is the meaning of Talien.
Grazie. We also wanted to ask about how you developed the idea of the film, how you convinced your father to work with you on this film. How much did you write and kind of ideate together? And, you know, connected, I was also so struck by, you know, the kind of documentary format versus the very stylized moments of cinematography, like thinking about the moment where you both are standing facing each other in that beautiful landscape. What were the different kind of considerations that were going through your mind as you worked on this project?
Okay, so in few words. The genesis of this movie, of this road movie, was that 6 years ago, my first intent was to shoot a movie that talks about the last 40 years in Italy in terms of society, culture, economics, political. But the intent was also to shoot a movie that didn't become a political movie, so not a utopical movie. During the writing of this first idea, my father told me about his decision to go back definitely to Morocco. As a son, was a shock, but as a director was okay. I found the idea, so I've used the eyes of my father as an immigrant to talk about Italy, using his eyes. Talking about Italy is a big word. Talking about North Italy, because I know that many Americans think that Italy is a sort of monolithic country. But no, in Italy we have several regions, several different countries, cultures. You have to divide the north from the center and the south. In the north we don't sing with mandolino, and we don't eat pizza every day. So this is a news that I and. But this is a conviction that many Italians have with America. Many Italians think that America is a monolithic country. So New York is San Francisco, is South Carolina. No, no, no. And I discovered me too in my last tour with another documentary, crossing several states, and I feel the difference between who lives here and who lives in Virginia, for example, or. So, when I found in my father the possibility to shoot this documentary, this road movie, because I shot, I think, a sort of hybrid project, hybrid movie, where you could find signs of documentary, things about fiction, maybe. Many people, many critics in Italy asked me, but asked my producer, why do you use the word documentary when you talk about Talien? My reply is, I wanted to shoot a movie. That's all. So if in your opinion it's a documentary, for me it's okay. If it is fiction, it's okay. But the important for me was to give to the audience this message. Yes, the second step was to convince my father to put himself into the frames. And my father is not an actor, but we discovered that we had a good actor in family, and but he never played, he never acted, he never worked in front of camera in his life. So for me, it was a big risk to take, especially with my producers. This is my first movie, so if you fail your first movie, your career is finished. So I took the risk, but I was surprised. When I asked to my father, okay, I have to shoot this road movie, what is your opinion? No reply. No reply, definitely. And then I remember after 1 week, he phoned me and he asked me, okay, what's about your road movie? So, yes, was yes. And then we became to, I began to rewrite my first idea. And I decided to use the road movie as a structure of this movie, because I think that was important to go back to Morocco with my father and do the same journey that he had 40 years ago, crossing exactly the same cities that he saw, in order to see the differences also. And basically this road movie was, the intent was to speak about Italy, about the changement of the Italians in terms of perception of the immigrants, perception of the others. And it's also a road movie that talks about the relationship between a father and son. So that's all. And this helps me to make this road movie as much as possible universal. It was not easy to do it with your father. We talked about things that we didn't used to talk about during our real life. But he helps me. He gave me a great gift, and I think that we finished a good project, and my first intent was satisfied. Yes. I do apologize for my bad English, but
And Elia, the last time you were here on this stage in October, you also told us that you originally had the idea of shooting a film that would tell the changes of Italian culture and society during the past 30, 40 years, and how your father's experience mirrored these changes. And your father talks a lot about how different Italy was in the 1980s when he arrived and what it is nowadays. But going back through the same experience with your father, going through all the steps he took, the places he passed through, was it a cathartic experience? Did you come back changed somehow? Or how did you feel, and how did the different audiences you've been screening this film to in Italy here and in other places reacted to this idea of this changing Italy, and how you and your father experienced it and now can tell you as Italian and as Moroccans at the same time?
Yes, my objective was to produce and shot an Italian movie with the eyes of an Italian. And the second objective was to give to the Italians a chance to see what they was only 30 or 40 years before. So my first objective was to shot an Italian movie, so with the point of view of an Italian director, for the Italians. And then, of course, I tried, and the idea of the road movie helps me to make my movie as universal as much as possible. Yes, he had a cathartic, of course. It was cathartic for my father and for me, and yes, It was strange because I crossed emotionally two things. One is the stress to shot a movie, but this is a hard experience. And the second was also to accept the decision of my father in the same time. So in the same time, and I was surprised, and I wasn't convinced about my father's decision. I thought that wasn't the good decision for him, but I respect it. And I try to understand why a man that arrived in Italy when he was 23 years old, at the age of 65, decide to go back to his original country. And I was surprised that my father didn't take in consideration that his original country is definitely changed. And this is what many old immigrants, they think that they will find everything, every object in the same position, in the same. No, this is wrong. And in fact, my father now is feeling, it is in Morocco, but he feels himself as a stranger. So this is we say in Italian, I say in Italian, the syndrome of the eterno straniero. You became an eternal stranger. So, and this is an interesting point, but also a sad point. Yes.
Should we? Yeah.
Yes, we would love to. I mean, I would love if we have the chance to talk a little bit more about the code switching in your film. That would be great. But I also want to make sure that we have time for audience questions. So I want to open it up. If code switching first. Yes. Okay, so Nicola, you're voting for code switching. So we talked a little bit about the choice of Talien as the title, but obviously for those of us who have a sense of the different languages that are being spoken in this film. I mean, we have Italian, we have dialect of Brescia, we have Moroccan Arabic, Berber, French, Spanish, German. We have a ton of different languages, and you're moving quite fluidly between them. So I'm just kind of curious if you can speak more about that, the role of code switching, and in your life, even maybe beyond the film?
Yes, multilingualism is something that it's mine, first of all, and I try to put it inside my cinema, finding as much as possible an harmony. And yes, usually we used to. I grow up. My first language is the dialect, Italian dialect, so Bresciano, and then the Moroccan, that is not Arabic, and then the Arabic, and then the Italian. So a mixed. But when you are a child, it's quite automatic to learn more than one language. It's not impossible. Yes, I think that is quite interesting to put a lot of languages in order to don't lose the sfumatura, come si dice, nuances that only the original language could give. And it is also quite funny to use my strong Brescian accent, because I have a very strong Northern Italian accent. I don't. There is an Italian here. Okay. Okay. So it's quite funny to speak in Arabic with this accent.
You speak with
Yes. I don't lose it, unfortunately. And so when I discovered that this is funny, is ironic, but also helps me talking about reflection, talking about diversity and the others, I decided to put it inside my movie. This is the reason, basically. But we can talk about it for hours, but basically this is the reason.
So do we want to open it up? Do we have Judy? Okay, you have the mic back there. Oh, scusate. Anybody have any questions?
Thanks. Do you?
It's on.
It's on. You know, America is the culture of road movies, whether it's Bing Crosby and Bob Hope or Thelma and Louise. And I wonder if it was a thought that you had when you were making your movie.
Yes, of course, the American road movies influenced me, and I love the road movies in general. Yes, and I think that is. I was interested to put you inside the movie, so inside that RV, and I think that the dimension of the travel, the journey dimension is a good way to touch sensitive and emotional things, and as in Arabic we say, hey, ciao. My parents teach me that if you want to understand better a person, try to viaggiare com'è?
Travel?
To travel with him. And that's why I put myself inside the journey with my father, in order to don't lose our spontaneity, and because I had many options to shot this script. I've choose the road movie for that reason.
I wonder if you were thinking of this when you put the movie together, how universal the story is. Because even if you're just moving from Philadelphia to Indianapolis, even if you started as 20 years old and you wound up as 60 years old, you always might have this feeling of displacement. Even the married couple who had 28 28,000 arguments and 28,000 makeups, you know, is a universal story. So I wonder if you really hit always, if you're working very hard as a young man and you're very bright-minded, you know, and very, I can't find the word, I'm old, so I lose words. But even if you have that, you have a crash and burn. There isn't anybody who does what he did and not have a crash and burn, and how universal that is, no matter what country you are in or where you have emigrated from or where you're immigrating back. I wonder if you were aware of the universality of that when you put that together. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. This is a good consideration, yes.
It's the whole story, I think.
Yes.
Congratulations. I truly enjoy the film. Was wondering if you can talk more about the writing process. How much did you write before taking the trip, and how much instead was something that maybe was done impromptu? We definitely saw some scenes that you definitely capture on the spot. And then I was wondering if that was a choice to not have dialogue anymore between you and your dad, your father, when you got in Morocco. Because then I think you saw that confrontation in the Almeria desert and a reference to Sergio Leone in the place where all this film was shot. If that was perhaps like kind of the climax of the story, and perhaps there was nothing more to say, kind of you came to terms at that point and the rest was just perhaps not needing any words. Well, thank you, I really enjoyed it.
Thank you. Thank you. Okay. I think, as you know, writing a documentary is not an easy operation, so you cannot prevent what would happen during a documentary, but you can trace a sort of list of arguments, list of things to do. But first of all, before to write this documentary, I literally picked up my father for 6 months, and I start a long interview with him, visiting or revisiting all his life. And we talk about things that of course I knew, but it was necessary for me to put him in the condition of interviewer in order to write and to fix points. When I found a sort of list of arguments that could connect Italy and the relationship between me and him, and also the using of languages, and this took 6 months. Then I started to write this road movie, this script, and this second phase took me more or less 2 months. Fortunately, I had already the agreement with my producer, so we started immediately. The shooting took 20 days, and I tried to put all the important dialogues in the first half. And yes, the most emotional, most strong dialogue that we had talking about my mother in Almeria. Yes, we shot it, in Almeria, where Sergio Leone shot all the spaghetti western, because I'm a big fan of Sergio Leone, so we were there, so why not? And I've used this surreal duel, not only it's not only an homage to Sergio Leone, because I need that scene in order to distress the previous scene. And from that scene, I decided that every dialogue would be inutile, useless. So I lived only the images, and especially in Morocco. And I think that the last frame, me and him could say many things without any dialogue. I hate dialogues in generally in the cinema, so I tried to use only images, and this is what a director, in my opinion, have to do. Cinema is images, it's frames, so you have to use it before to think about the dialogue, so I try to do it.
It works.
Thank you. Sorry? Because it was a journey with my father.
It was meant to be from the very beginning? Or?
No, I asked my mother to do it, but he doesn't accept.
She didn't want to.
No.
But
I would like to do something similar with my mother in my next project. So I'm interested about the same point of view, but in the female side. So we talked about my mother, yes, but unfortunately for this project wasn't with us. Next time, inshallah. Next time.
So shall we? Unless a pressing question, but it's 8:30. We should, we should close it here. And if you want to talk with Elia as we leave the room, feel free to. But thank you so much. It's a wonderful film. We look forward to seeing your next production. And thank you.
Thank you very much.